Welcome to the Fit Strong Women Over 50 podcast, episode number 141. Hi, I'm Chris. Thank you for joining us.
And I'm Jill. Chris and I are your hosts for this podcast and the founders of the Becoming Ellie community.
We decided to name our community Becoming Ellie because Ellie was the Norse goddess of aging who beat Thor in a wrestling match.
Yay.
Jill and I, yay. Jill and I thought we want to be like Ellie.
You can find out more about us in the Becoming Ellie community and this podcast at our website, becomingellie.com. And Ellie is spelled E-L-L-I.
Be sure to sign up for our newsletter while you're there. That way you'll know about new episodes and anything else that's new with us.
Today, we're talking to Jeanette Evans about what she does to prevent breast cancer. In her case, it's to try to prevent the return of cancer.
Yes, she has lots of great advice. One thing is clear, Jeanette does a lot of research. But you shouldn't just follow what Jeanette says. Check out the people that she discusses in this episode and decide for yourself. Let's go to the podcast.
I met Jeanette Evans many years ago when we were both working as tech writers and belonged to a professional organization together. Jeanette is a writer and editor and is involved in all kinds of communications. We've kept in touch over the years and started to meet for lunch recently. I thought Jeanette's story and way of life might be of interest to everyone.
Jeanette Evans has had 3 cancer surgeries, with the first being in 2003, and a diagnosis of presumed triple-negative breast cancer. She has tried to educate herself on staying healthy with an anti-cancer lifestyle and diet, which she finds to be delicious, too. Welcome, Jeanette. We're so happy to have you join us.
I'm very happy to be here, and I just want to say I love Becoming Ellie, and it's a great forum. It's very inspiring to hear the stories that people tell, and I have learned a lot in my journey of educating myself on anti-cancer diet and lifestyle, and I've learned from other people, so I'm hoping maybe somebody can get something valuable from what I've learned.
Great. Thank you for being here. So 3 cancer surgeries, that's a lot. So maybe we can just start with your health and where you used to be and where you are now.
Yes. So the first thing I want to say is I used to think that when you did your self-examination for lumps, that you never find anything. Well, I was wrong because I thought maybe I was doing it the wrong way, but no, I found the lump back in 2003, and I told my internist about it. My internist said, it's nothing. It felt like a bowling ball, and I felt like I had the flu all the time for weeks and weeks on end. And my internist said, it's just a cold and your lymph nodes are reacting to it. Well, I said, I'm going to try for a biopsy because something just doesn't seem right. So long story short, the biopsy was done by a very skilled surgeon, the same surgeon I've had for all 3 surgeries. I've just been lucky that way. And she pulled out the lump and lymph nodes, and it came back as positive for cancer. One thing I just want people to know is, do your own exams. Even if you think you're doing it wrong, you may be doing it right, and you may be finding it before anyone else does, So that was the first surgery. Well, I went through the chemo and I went through the radiation, and they couldn't find any cancer cells. I kept saying, I didn't need the chemo. I didn't need the radiation. I just needed the surgery, but I went through everything. I didn't know anything about alternative treatments or naturopathic approaches or anything like that back then. I just freaked out, and said, okay, chemo, radiation, whatever, it's fine. So then 10 years later, I had on my other side. The first surgery was on my left side. Second surgery was on my right side. And it was a lump, but no lymph nodes. So I'm moving in the right direction. The third surgery was 5 years ago, and that was precancerous. So I feel like I'm going in a good direction. My surgeon, I said, well, let's just do the mastectomy. She said it won't prolong your life. That's her opinion. So that's why we keep going with the surgeries instead of the mastectomy. And I think it's much less traumatic, to just have these lumpectomies.
Well, I think that depends on a lot of things as to what the right way to go with surgery is. But what's sort of noteworthy is your primary care doctor, the internist, dismissing your concerns.
Right. Swollen lymph nodes. Yikes.
And you stuck with it despite what that doctor said. That's really important.
Yeah.
I think sometimes you have to be your own quote unquote doctor. You have to figure out what's right for you. Doctors, yeah, they're educated. They've gone through school. They know what they learned in medical school, but they don't know you. They don't know your history. They don't know how you feel. And so you have to be your own advocate. And that's something that I've been trying to do ever since the first surgery in 2003. And I've learned so much because I feel like there's a lot of information available today that wasn't available back in 2003. All kinds of stuff about diet, how diet can influence cancer. And I've been working with a naturopath, and she's been helpful. And there's so much on the internet now. And I got out every book out of the library I could find on the subject of how to prevent breast cancer. There's a lot.
It sounds like you're really good at listening to your body too. And that seems like one part of this. Way back when we did the introduction, I said something about triple negative breast cancer. What does that mean? Triple negative.
There are estrogen receptors that can trigger cancer. And some cancers, like if you get tamoxifen, it's hormonally based cancer that you have. I don't have hormone-based cancer. Mine is especially lethal and it's rare. So I have to really be careful. I don't have any of the markers for a hormone-related cancer.
So triple negative is a type of cancer?
Right. Triple negative breast cancer. Yeah.
Because usually when I hear about negative with cancer, I'm assuming it means you don't have cancer, but this is negative on something else. Okay.
You're probably thinking of the estrogen positive cancer.
Got it.
Which is what most people get.
I see.
The success rate for treating that is very, very high. But now the success rate for treating triple negative breast cancer is better than it used to be. Although I have also heard that we've made very little progress in medicine on treating cancer. We just get new chemo drugs, and really the way to go is with a vaccine or preventing it in the first place. I just read that Cleveland Clinic has a vaccine for triple negative breast cancer that's in clinical trials or close to that.
Wow. Is there a genetic component to that? Are you able to identify people who would be at risk for it?
Not that I know of.
Okay.
Some breast cancers, there is a very genetic thing.
Yeah.
Yeah. My mother passed away from uterine cancer. I don't think that's hereditary, although, you fill out those forms, you go to the doctor, who in your family had cancer,
I know, but you know what? Has anyone, I don't know, I fill those forms out and then I feel like no one even looks at them.
Right. Or I'll ask my doctor, when did I have cancer first? And they don't know. You have to be your own advocate. I'm like, don't you have electronic medical records that tell you something about my history?
They probably have to make 12 clicks in the middle of your 15-minute appointment, right?
15 minutes if you're lucky.
We had said in our introduction that you follow an anti-cancer lifestyle. Now, what is an anti-cancer lifestyle? Can you give us some more details?
Yes. I tried to educate myself with these various sources. There's a lot of sources, and I can't really say that the information is conflicting, but it can be a little overwhelming because one person will say one thing, another will say another, but there's so many similarities. So I picked one favorite, and that's this book by Christy Funk, Dr. Christy Funk, Breasts, the Owner's Manual. She's a surgeon, a breast surgeon, and she's had very high-profile clients like Sheryl Crow and Angelina Jolie, but she also decided to educate herself on the latest research on how to prevent breast cancer. So I just follow what she says. Like, take, for example, she talks about 10 breast superfoods, and she has kind of a playful approach. She likes word puns. So 10 breast superfoods, okay? Number 1, cruciferous vegetables and leafy greens. Number 2, dietary fiber. Number 3, berries. Number 4, apples. Number 5, tomatoes. Number 6, mushrooms. Number 7, garlic, onions, leeks, shallot, chives, scallions. Number 8, turmeric and spices. And number 9, seaweed. And number 10, cacao.
Cacao. That's chocolate, isn't it?
Yes, packed with flavonoids and procyanidins. Cacao powder, not Dutch processed, can be added to berry smoothies to satisfy a sweet tooth. Consuming 1.5 ounces, 40 grams or more than 70% cacao, solid dark chocolate, gets an anti-cancer thumbs up as it delivers antioxidants more than it does cocoa fat and sugar. So one thing I like about Christy Funk is she has hundreds of peer-reviewed references in the back of her book. So, I trust her, and I like the way she explained her own story, which is she was following a Mediterranean diet, thinking, oh, this is great, Then she did the research and realized this isn't the best diet for people. You really need to go anti-dairy and anti-meat and anti-sugar. So those are 3 biggies that I've been avoiding to help prevent cancer.
Dairy, meat, and sugar.
Yeah. I thought, oh man, I can never give up sugar.
I'm thinking I can never give up dairy.
Well, if you've had 3 cancer surgeries,
you'll find a way, right? So is that because cancer likes sugar, or sugar helps cancer grow? Why is that?
That's exactly right. It feeds the cells that replicate. That's what cancer is. It's replication of cells in a way that shouldn't happen. I mean, we have cancer. We have cells replicating in our body every day. We're fighting off cancer every day with antioxidants. But if you're going to feed the cells with sugar and dairy, there's going to be an inflammation in your system. You're just going to make those grow and grow and grow. And the other big thing is angiogenesis, which is Dr. Lee. He's done a lot of research on this also. How do you stop the blood flow to the cells that cause cancer growth? He will indicate the kind of foods that he likes. Like he'll say, for prostate cancer, eat a tomato product every day. And cooked tomatoes, he says, are better than, regular tomatoes.
I remember hearing that about cooked tomatoes give you more lycopene or something. I don't know. But
Yep.
I remember reading that ages ago.
Well, he's the one who really promotes that idea. Although I think if you look at Christy Funk, I don't remember if tomatoes number 5, tomatoes.
Yeah, I heard tomatoes in her list too. A lot of vegetables, leafy greens, and then, some spices too, which that's interesting there.
It's funny you should mention spices because she has an entire page. Hey, Herb, let's spice it up. Okay. She has at least 40 spices here, starting with allspice and ending with turmeric.
I'm assuming that salt and pepper isn't part of her list. The most common spices, right?
Well, let me tell you about pepper.
Pepper's good for you.
Yes, you've probably heard that turmeric combined with black pepper increases the antioxidant abilities of turmeric. Just a pinch. Black pepper does make the list. I've seen red pepper, hot pepper on some of these lists. She doesn't have it on this list. Oh, here she does. Chili pepper and chili powder.
Do you think it makes a difference if you have black pepper that's already ground, you just buy ground pepper, or you buy the peppercorns and then you grind it yourself? Does it make a difference, do you think?
I think I have read that if you take the peppercorns and grind them down, you're better off. But I don't do that. I also don't do that with my flax seeds. So I can do better.
You buy already ground flaxseed?
That's what I buy. Yeah. Because I'm too lazy to go out and get a grinder and and all the ways I've tried to grind flaxseed have not worked. I think that a coffee grinder works the best.
That's what I have used, is one of those little handheld coffee grinders, electric. You just push the top down and it whirls around. That's how I ground. I kept a special one for spices.
Yeah, that's exactly what I've heard is the best, because if you're going to grind garlic and then grind coffee, that's probably not.
Yeah. Right. Now I'm wondering what I did with that.
Well, it's a continuum, isn't it? To have a healthy lifestyle wherever you are in your journey. If you make it better, it's better.
That's a good way to look at it. And, if I followed the advice of everything that I read, I would have so many gadgets in my house.
Right.
I stick right now with an old osterizer that I inherited from my mother. My mother worked in food service. That's all. I use that. And then I also have in the past used a hand immersion blender, which I wore out. And I've also used a food processor. There's more than one way to skin a cat,
Right.
So right now I'm using the osterizer because Christy Funk wants you to have a certain smoothie every day with 15 things in it. And I'll give you the link to her smoothie recipe. That's like a full-time job, getting those 15 things into your system every day. And there's some variations, like she wants you to have a banana in it, an apple and turmeric and some kind of a plant-based milk.
Almond milk or something?
Or soy milk, yeah. And she weighs in on soy because soy is very controversial.
Yeah.
She said that she used to tell her patients to spit out, have nothing to do with soy. And she's looked at the recent research and she says the opposite is true. Because there's two receptors, there's two estrogen receptors and one promotes cancer growth and one doesn't. And soy hooks up with the one that does not promote cancer. So she actually wants you to have soy every day. So she really changed her mind about that. And that's another thing I like about her. Some doctors are rigid. This is what I learned. This is how it is. She keeps evolving.
That's good. I like when to have actual peer-reviewed articles referenced in the book. You're right. There's a lot of information out there, and it's hard to figure out who's anywhere near accurate. So it's good when there are actual experiments and science and studies that they are referring to. So I assume that's partly why you think her advice is best for you.
Yes, and that's what she agrees with you. You need to base your decision on science and research.
Well, there's so much out there that's not scientific, and you can just wander from here to there to here to there trying to do different things.
Well, I agree. There are so many things that I see, and I don't think that's right. I don't think that's right for me. I don't think the evidence points in that direction.
So do you actually have a smoothie every morning? Like, what do you eat on a regular basis? Tell us about your smoothie.
So I follow Christy Funk's guidelines, and it has to have greens, some kind of plant-based milk. Like the reason I use almond milk most of the time is I have osteoporosis, and my naturopath said every day eat almonds and get your calcium from a food. So because I had as an aside, 10 years after my radiation on my left side, I had heart attack, which is not unusual for people who've had radiation. It's not from clogged arteries. I didn't know this. I learned all this afterwards. So I don't feel like I can get the kind of medicine you take for osteoporosis because it's going to damage my heart even more. So I'm working with the naturopath. So long story short, in my smoothie, I put the almond milk, greens, a banana, apple, turmeric, black pepper. Then Christy Funk wants you to have, it's a very high concentration of vitamin C in a berry. It's called amla.
Never heard of that.
A lot of people haven't. And I found a couple places where you can get it ground up, and it's just easy. You just put it in your smoothie.
I'm sorry, what was it called?
It's amla, AMLA. It's a berry that's ground up. The highest concentration of vitamin C of any food on earth. So Christy thinks she's my friend, Christy. She thinks you should have that in your smoothie every day. And I've probably missed a couple of things. I know every day you should have mushrooms. Sometimes I put it in my smoothie. I've read that lots of people love their smoothie with mushrooms in it.
Well, mushrooms tend to kind of disappear in things. The one thing I was surprised that you mentioned was black pepper in a smoothie, because somehow I just don't think of pepper in a smoothie, but I guess it all makes sense. What do you have then for lunch? Do you do salads, or is there a consistent thing that you eat, like style, every day?
Yes. I follow the things that Christy wants, but there's some other ideas that are also good, just more on my history. I guess becoming Ellie, to be fit, you need to be healthy. So I've had a history, especially when I was a young person in my 20s, of irritable bowel syndrome. So I increased my fiber, and I've been in remission for over a decade now. I have almost no I'll get an occasional flare-up. But what I like is Dr. Furman. He's done a lot of research. Greens, onions, mushrooms, berries, beans, and seeds. I have that. Like for lunch, I'll have lunch and dinner, probably a salad, and then some onions and some steamed mushrooms and some berries. Flaxseed is excellent. That goes in the smoothie also. I'll just have a simple dish, with veggies and some kind of rice or noodles. I like those noodles that come from the beans. You've probably had those.
Chickpeas, chickpea beans. Yeah, I like those.
Oh, yeah. I like those too. Do you get tired of eating the same thing all the time? Do you struggle with that at all?
You would think, but because I buy seasonal food, every day is different. I just got 2 squashes, which I wouldn't have in the summer. Every single day my smoothie is different because, you're supposed to put berries in, blueberries. I put blueberries in also. And I put different spices in every day. Cinnamon. I think Christy Funk wants you to put cinnamon in every smoothie. You would think it would get boring, but because it's plant-based and vegetable-based and based on the seasons, it's really not boring. Like I wouldn't have a hot soup in the middle of summer, but in winter I would, like a lentil soup or a split pea soup. And then you can use that base and add all kinds of different things. And then because my husband should have tomato sauce every day, one meal will have tomato sauce in it or tomatoes. You would think, like I said, it would get boring, but it really doesn't. It really hasn't.
Well, it sounds like you make an effort to be creative with what you're doing.
Well, you get a lot of inspiration from the web. A lot of people try different things. And, I never thought to put mushrooms in a smoothie till I went on the web, and people are like, this is delicious. I love my mushroom smoothie,
Oh my goodness. You also, one of the superfoods you mentioned was seaweed.
Yes.
Was it any kind of seaweed or?
Well, let's see what she says.
And do you eat seaweed like daily?
I should, for 2 reasons. Sometimes going to the store is like a full-time job. And sometimes I run out of seaweed.
So is it seaweed like the kind that you wrap up the sushi or something? I mean, I'm trying to picture, how do you eat seaweed?
I've bought seaweed chips. I've bought dried seaweed snack packs.
Okay. Like chips.
The snack pack, and my naturopath wants me to have seaweed every day also. She has me, do you know what dulce is? Dulce? That's one way to get your seaweed. It's something you sprinkle on.
Oh, like a seasoning.
It's like a seasoning. It tastes salty. It's not the kind of salt, though, that gives you high blood pressure. So anyway, what does Christy Funk say? Okay, seaweed reduces the estrogen burden in the body by promoting urinary excretion and altering the gut bacteria. That's another big thing, your microbiome. I've been working on that. A Korean study showed that daily consumption of GIM, like a sheet of nori, the sushi wrap, drops breast cancer by over 50%.
Wait a second. A sheet of nori drops the risk of breast cancer by 50%?
Over 50%, yeah.
And I have 2 of those sheets sitting in my refrigerator right now. I think that's going to be part of my
Still
lunch.
eat them.
I'll crisp them up a little bit with the dulce, Dulce.
Actually, it's Dulse.
Essie. Oh,
yeah.
I spelled it wrong. Thank you.
Common seaweeds include nori, wakame, arami, makubi, kumbi, dulce, Irish moss, and spirulina. I've seen spirulina extract.
Irish moss. Oh my gosh. Can you imagine? I'm sorry. I'm trying to imagine sitting down to a bowl of Irish moss and
Maybe some sprinkled in the smoothie.
Yeah.
That leafy green kind of seaweed, that might work, because the idea, I'm just not used to thinking of seaweed,
But I have those seaweed chips or, dried seaweed that come in their little snack pack, but they're seasoned and whatever. Are they too processed to use, or are they okay?
Well, I think she answers the question here. Try snacking on sheets of nori instead of chips or rolled up veggies and colored rice in a nori wrap. Throw a teaspoon of powdered spirulina into a smoothie or salad dressing. Boy, it's like you wrote this book. Or shake seaweed flakes found online or in an Asian market instead of salt onto any meal. I think those things, Jill, those packets,
yeah,
I think that's fine.
Okay. I should do more than buy them and put them in my pantry. My granddaughter is 6, and her mother buys her those snack packs of seaweed all the time, and she loves them. The little girl they actually are delicious. And that's true of a lot of this food. A lot of it is expensive. You don't have to buy fancy mushrooms, though. Christy Funk says even button mushrooms, the inexpensive button mushrooms. There's books and books written about mushrooms. So you really can't go wrong. I mean, I wouldn't go out and pick them myself.
Right. That was the one wrong way you could probably go, trying to DIY your mushrooms. Yeah. But going to the grocery store or a natural food store with mushrooms probably makes a lot of sense.
And my daughter got me a powdered lion's mane mushroom with green tea. If you drink green tea every day, and that should go in your smoothie too, you reduce your cancer risk by well over 50%. Mushrooms and green tea every day. So I have that every day. And she actually found a powder. Lion's mane is supposed to be very good, an anti-cancer mushroom. And it tastes great. And a lot of people put mushroom powder in their coffee.
I've heard that. In fact, I think you can buy it.
Yeah.
But I have not tried that.
Yeah, I drink green tea every day, so I don't drink coffee. But I think it would be delicious.
So what about things that you don't eat? Tell me what you try to avoid or you avoid.
I used to eat chocolate every day, because chocolate's good for you. But like an M&M is not good for you because it's got too much sugar if you're trying to fight off cancer cells. So I don't eat the traditional kind of candy, chocolate candy, and I don't eat sugar. I mean, I try to avoid processed foods because you can't tell what half the ingredients are. It seems like most processed food has sugar in it. So you have to be careful with that. So I avoid sugar, dairy I avoid, and meat. And I gave up meat. I gave up beef back when I was 30 years old because I read that it can help with IBS, getting rid of red meat. And I never missed it. I never wanted a hamburger or anything like that. So giving up red meat was easy. And then the more I read about giving up meat and fighting cancer, the more I said, well, I'm not going to eat meat. So I gave up meat, and now I'm starting to change my idea again, because if you give up meat, you miss out on certain B vitamins. You should take a supplement. So I'm thinking a little bit of meat once or twice a week, little chicken soup, a bite or two of meat maybe is a good idea. And even Furman says you can have some meat, but it shouldn't be like a steak every day. You know what I mean? So I gave up dairy, meat, and sugar. There's so many foods that I'm supposed to have every day that by the end of the day, you don't miss all the other foods. You still have to live in the world, and it's like a toxic food environment we live in. The standard American diet, sad. So you have to really keep your eye on the ball.
You mentioned some B vitamins. Do you take supplements?
Yes, I never used to because this Dr. Budwig, which was one of the first anti-cancer researchers I read about, she said, get all your vitamins from food. But my naturopath says, you need the B6 or B12. I can't remember.
B12. B12 is what tends to come from beef.
That you need to take if you're not going to eat meat. And I also take, Dr. Furman they're like horse pills, daily vitamins.
That doesn't sound too appealing.
I know, but everything in it is natural. Everything is plant-based. And to get the daily vitamins you need, it has to be a lot of.
So it's a multivitamin from Dr. Furman.
Yeah, I heard about him on PBS because he did a show about diet. So he's got a lot on the web also. Greens, onions, mushrooms, berries, beans, and seeds.
Well, there's a lot of overlap in what people say. So you're right about that, about, berries, seeds.
A lot of overlap. Yep.
Can you eat nuts?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Especially almonds every day.
Almonds are higher in calcium, I've just learned.
Well, that's what my naturopath, and this naturopath, I don't know how much of her recommendation comes from school and how much from her own research, but she seems to have some pretty good ideas. I like to follow what she says. And it's easy. It's easy to eat. It's expensive to eat almonds every day. I know there's a lot of water that goes into processing.
Yeah, there's some environmental things about almonds that's questionable, but it can only solve one problem at a time.
Everything's a trade-off.
So how did you find your naturopath? And I'm not even saying that right.
So my insurance covers it. So I went to the University Hospital Center for Alternative Medicine or whatever they call it. And there's a naturopath there. She's on the staff there, and I've never met her. We've just done Zoom calls because of COVID and all that. But, the first session with her is like 1 hour long. It's wonderful.
Wow.
What's the difference between a naturopath and a regular medical doctor?
So for osteoporosis, my regular doctor said, take a pill. And my naturopath said, take food. So one approaches it the traditional way with medicine, and the other one approaches it with food for the most part. Let your food be your medicine be your food. So the naturopath is more geared they will tell you to take, if you've got strep, they're going to tell you to take penicillin, But she also says sometimes check with your regular doctor. She tells me certain things.
Well, and that's a good thing. When you're dealing with certain things, you can't just say, I'm never going to go back to traditional medicine. So that's good.
That's how I feel, because traditional medicine really is good for certain things like strep. If you have
Well, and you're alive because you had surgery.
I agree with that.
Yes.
Yeah. Now, if I had not had the chemo and the radiation, who knows? But they never found any cancer cells. They just said, well, let's do this preventatively. And chemo, I'm sure you've heard, is like the end of the world. It's like you feel dead all the time. It's horrible.
Very difficult.
Very hard.
You brought it up earlier, but your gut and microbiome, how much focus do you put on that?
So I've been looking at these various lectures. I get them, I sign up for these different lectures on different subjects having to do with health. And that's microbiome is a term I've seen over and over again on how to improve your overall health. And Otto, O-T-T-O, Sarah Otto, she had a whole series of lectures on the These are free, but only for a certain period of time. They also try to sell you, which, I mean, I understand it. But I usually get into the free window because, I'm semi-retired. I can usually fit an hour-long lecture into my day. Like you said, there's a lot of overlap. The greens, the onions, the mushrooms, the berries, the beans, the seeds, they all improve your microbiome. The sugar is something that hurts your microbiome. And one great thing is the fiber, the prebiotics and probiotics. So the fiber helps feed the organisms in your gut that digest your food. Lots and lots of fiber. Over and over again, I hear that the more fiber, the better. We get very little fiber in the standard American diet.
Well, the processed foods are already processed, so it just goes right through you instead of allowing you to absorb all those good nutrients, right?
That's exactly what these different sources are saying. Yeah. And you don't actually digest food. It's actually the organisms in your gut that digest the food for you. And there's more, boy, I hope I have this right. There's more organisms in your system than there are stars in the sky. Boy, I should probably double check that.
Well, I know there's an awful lot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I wouldn't want to try to count either. Let's put it
Right.
that way.
Billions upon billions upon
And
billions.
maybe the stars in the sky depends on where you're looking at the sky.
Yeah. And we don't
Cloud cover.
Well, we've got a lot of light pollution, but if you go out into the wilds, you'd see more stars. So who knows?
And we don't even know what the cosmos is, but that's a different topic. We're not.
Yeah. So can you tell me if, has following this anti-cancer lifestyle and diet improved your health? Have you noticed a difference?
Well, I mean, the fact that I don't have cancer the way I did back in 2003 tells me that. And I also exercise every day.
Okay.
I don't have the high bar that I know Jill has, but my exercise is quite laid back. It's yoga.
Yoga's good.
And I've been doing yoga every day for decades now at home. Nothing. I tried a studio. It's good. A studio's great. But my husband and I do it at home with the same person. Her name escapes me right now.
It's on the TV or on the internet?
It's on a video.
Okay. I
got out all the books on yoga that I could find at the library. And I liked, Peggy Cappy. I liked Peggy Cappy the most, Cappy. And we do her exercises every day. And I walk every day or get on the bike, do something aerobic every day.
Okay.
When the weather's bad, I'll go to the gym and get on the treadmill. So nothing spectacular.
Well, but yoga every day is probably really good for you.
Right.
It works for me. Yeah, it works for me. If you're tired, you do yoga, you feel better.
Yeah. If you're stressed, you do yoga, you feel better. Right.
Yeah. And I do a lot of meditation also. That was something that I learned. So you go through these classes when you get chemo. And one of the things they said to help you get through chemo was meditation. So I learned about meditation a little bit then. I mean, back in college, transcendental meditation was a big thing, but you have to pay a lot of money. Now you can get on the internet and find meditations or figure it out on your own.
Even the Fitbit app has meditations in it.
Yeah. Yeah. There's a lot of free 2, 3, 5-minute meditations that you can fit in.
Well, I like those. I like the 3, 4, 5-minute meditations.
Me too.
If it's not enough, you just do 2 of them or 3 of them.
I was going to ask you about exercise. So good. You anticipated my question.
Well, I do other exercises also because for osteoporosis, and I incorporate this with my yoga, you should do weight-bearing exercises. I was having some problems with my shoulder from an accident, and I asked my physical therapist, what are good weight-bearing exercises? And he said, do squats. So I do those every day. And there's a yoga teacher, Fishman, who wrote a book about osteoporosis and yoga. You know, something like tree pose actually is a weight-bearing exercise that's part of yoga and also part of the weight-bearing exercise for fighting osteoporosis. People have actually, I've read, reversed osteoporosis. I don't know how. If I can do that, I mean, I can try, you know.
So I have heard that too, but I also know that I've heard that it's very difficult to do that. But if you can also just prevent it worsening, that's a win in my book. I mean, if you don't continue to have degradation in the bone.
See, I agree with that. Yeah.
And tree pose definitely helps with balance to avoiding falls with osteoporosis. That's all good, right?
I went to yoga not too long ago. We were doing tree pose and I was a very topply tree. Let's just say I was falling over. I was a tree that was being chopped down.
You had a windstorm.
Yes, yes.
Well, let's put it this way. I've been doing yoga for a couple decades and I'm so wobbly. It's ridiculous. You know, you would think my balance would be fabulous. On a rare occasion, maybe once or twice a week, I'll have good balance. I don't know what it is about me, but even with all the yoga, and if I had a good teacher that would correct me in person, maybe it would be different. But right now, I'm very wobbly during tree. But if you do tree by a door, if you fall to the side, the door will catch you. And my physical therapist said, you know, go on one foot, but have a surface in front of you where if you start to fall, it'll catch you, you know, like a table in front of you. I'm very wobbly.
Okay.
Very embarrassing.
Besides cancer, many of us have to be concerned about cardiovascular health. And do you think that the anti-cancer diet helps with that or other types of diseases and illness?
It's like you're asking me all the right questions. So one of the first books and diets I tried to follow was Budwig. I read this book. Actually, I listened to the book. It was on naturopathic treatments for cancer. He said Budwig from Germany, where naturopathic medicine is practiced routinely. This Dr. Budwig had this idea, and she wrote this book. I have it right here in front of me. The Budwig Cancer and Coronary Heart Disease Prevention Diet.
Oh, wow.
You clearly, I've known you a long time, so I know this about you, but you obviously love to research things.
Yeah.
Yes. And I have what's the expression? A dog in this race? Is that the expression?
Yep.
I'm still alive, folks. Triple negative.
Tell me that title again.
So this is a little bit dated.
Cancer and Coronary Heart Disease Prevention Diet.
Right.
Interesting.
She's a little bit out of date. She's passed away, but she was the first person to make a connection between diet and heart disease. She said, if you eat certain kinds of fat, you're going to mess up your arteries and you're going to have a heart attack. No one said that before her. She was, I guess you could say, ahead of her time. She was nominated for the Nobel Peace Prize Never got it because her ideas were so out of the mainstream.
Nobel Prize for medicine, I would assume, not peace.
Medicine, because she's a doctor. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
She's a chemist. I think she's a chemist.
Wow.
And now I think pretty much people accept that if you're going to eat certain kinds of fat, you're going to clog up your arteries. Trans fats are bad for you, and saturated fat is bad for you. And she figured this out early on. And she also there's still a Budwig Center in Europe. Their success rate is huge. You know, you hear stories about people who are told you have 3 weeks to live, and then they live for 20 more years. I've heard a lot of stories along those lines. And Budwig has a lot of them in their center. There's a lot of inspiration out there.
Here was something else I was going to ask, and that's about organic foods, because in the grocery store, there's organic and non-organic, and we all know organic seems to cost a lot more. But do you think it's worth it?
Absolutely,
do you
yes.
eat organic?
Absolutely. Every day I have organic blueberries, unless I absolutely can't find them. But Aldi, of all places, has a frozen organic blueberry. It's delicious, and it costs a little less than some of the other stores. But I get the fresh organic. I really think the organic's worth everything. I've read Furman and Christy Funk. Everybody says organics. And my husband said, get the organic. It costs less than going to the hospital. You know,
That's the right way to look at it. Yeah,
I think so. Yeah.
So your husband does the yoga with you.
Yes, we both did yoga before we had kids, before we were married.
Oh.
We stopped. You know, when you have kids, it's hard to do a lot of this stuff. And then we picked it up again.
And he eats the same way as you?
No, he eats meat.
Okay.
And he sneaks things in. I don't know if he's listening, but I know he sneaks in things. But he doesn't go to McDonald's. He doesn't want to do that. His family hated beef. His mother said that beef gives you a headache. His mother didn't like eggs, so he doesn't like any of that. He hates mushrooms. He won't eat a mushroom unless it's really hidden, you know?
Yeah, I'm not fond of mushrooms either, so.
See, I love mushrooms. That's one of my favorites. It's so funny. Everyone has a different palate and a continuum on the lifestyles, right? What about stress? Do you find that you can affect your mental state? How do you measure, or how do you manage stress in your life? And are there healthy ways to manage it?
See, you're asking so many good questions. So I told you about my mother. She died of cancer. She was with me at our home in hospice the last couple years. She passed away in November of 2002, and it was stressful. And then 4 months after she passed away, I was diagnosed with cancer.
Wow.
And I think that it's related. I think that it's the stress of taking care of her.
Wow.
That's what I think. But I handle it with meditation and exercise. Jill knows I have a grandson and granddaughter, and now a new little grandson who's just a month old. They help with stress. You know, they like jokes. We tell jokes a lot. We get books out of the library with jokes.
Definitely being with people you love and that give you love makes a huge difference in life, doesn't it?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely.
And children can be, they have a very positive look on the world usually. So they make you laugh with their jokes.
They can do that. They can add stress to your life. But, you know, if you have no stress in your life at all, that's also not good.
Right.
I've heard that.
That's true. That's true. You have to have some. There's no doubt.
You're still alive.
You just don't want to have chronic. So taking care of a person in hospice for a year or longer is chronic stress.
I would say so.
It's an ongoing thing, but stress is better when it sort of ebbs and flows in our lives.
Yep. Yeah, the grandson goes home.
Yes. So here's something we don't talk about a whole lot, which is our environment. And I mean, like in our houses and cars and that kind of thing. Do you use any special cleaning products in your house?
I should do better. I avoid bleach and all that. My daughter got me an air purifier. I have a filter on my water faucet. I pretty much stick to baking soda and vinegar. Mrs. Meyer's is good, but I usually just go with the baking soda and the vinegar.
Yeah. Vinegar is a wonderful cleaner.
Yeah. Yeah. Bleach is supposed to be not that good for you, right?
Right.
Bleach is
harsh.
And it is a poison if you consume it, you'd be in big, serious trouble.
Oh, yeah.
You don't want to breathe too much of it.
That's it. You don't want to breathe it. Yeah.
I mean, how could that be good for you, really? But I guess it's also very effective at cleaning germs.
Yes, it kills germs. So if you have germs in the house, I think vinegar will do it too. So it's hard to give up. I have an eco-friendly detergent that I use for my clothes.
Does it work?
Those sheets. I think it does. Well,
you use those sheets?
Yeah. I like the sheets.
I don't mean to divert onto this, but I was bombarded with ads for several months for those sheets. And boy, they're really effective because I almost bought them, but I didn't.
Right. Well, they're great for the environment to get rid of plastics, right?
Yeah. But do they work? Do they clean your clothes?
Well, I'm not that picky. They seem to clean fine. I don't have to go into an office every day or anything like that. So my clothes are not that fancy, as Jill will tell you.
Okay. Well, mine aren't either, really. So, all right. I may give those a try.
Well, I have one more question that I'd love to ask. And do you have a favorite meal or a recipe, something that you go to when it's time for dinner and you've had a really busy day? Is there something you could share with our listeners?
Well, just a skillet that has, steamed veggies and some kind of either a rice or a noodle or something. So that's easy. Yeah. I always have veggies in the house, and throw in beans, lots and lots of different kinds of beans into the skillet with the veggies and the rice and whatever. It's a simple meal.
Sounds very healthy too.
I like when you ask your guests that question. It's always an interesting answer,
Yeah, we get lots of different responses to that. Is there some place people can find you online or contact you if they have any questions? We can also always forward questions to you if you want. Let's just leave it. We'll maybe put your email in the show notes.
Yeah.
Okay, that sounds good.
JeanetteEvans@gmail.com. Yeah.
Okay. People can also post a question on Becoming Ellie Facebook page or on the website, and we'll make sure you see it.
Of course. Yeah. Yeah. I go to that Facebook page. That's another way to fight stress is Facebook. I mean, I know it adds stress.
You can.
So many, like your site is fun. There's so many fun sites, and then people that you like, you can follow them. And
yeah, I try to follow happy, uplifting things, and that's kind of the secret. But
yeah, I sat and cleaned out a bunch of stuff out of my Facebook feed the other day because I'm suddenly just inundated with weird things that I don't really need to follow a school district in Illinois.
That just shows up. Well, Jeanette, I really have learned so much today, and I really appreciate you sharing with me and with the listeners all of your secrets for, fighting cancer and living a healthy lifestyle. The past 20 years, it's certainly a testament to you doing the right things.
Well, thank you both for all the nice work that you do in supporting people on their desire to be fit. So, I love your forum.
Well, thank you. And thank you so much for talking with us. We really appreciate it. And we'll talk again soon.
All right. Take care. Yeah.
Take care. Bye.
Bye-bye.
I've known Jeanette for years, but I did not know a lot of what she told us today. I'm sort of overwhelmed with all the information she gave us.
Yeah, it was excellent information. And I posted a lot of the books and the websites that she talked about in the show notes. That should be helpful if you're trying to follow them. There's so many authors and recommendations from them.
I think it's important when you're reading someone, if they're actually able to cite peer-reviewed studies and papers, that kind of thing, that does lend more credibility to, rather than just following someone who says, hey, this is what I think.
Right, right. And the fact that she has done so well 20 years later.
Yeah.
And, she's certainly doing some things right.
Yes. Certain things that seem to come up a lot in the different sources or different things that she discussed, like eat more vegetables.
Oh, yeah.
Nuts, seeds, herbs, spices, or maybe tofu. I don't know.
Yeah. Well, I think all of the people that she mentioned said that type of thing, the vegetables and, whole food sources. That just makes a lot of sense. She mentioned turmeric a couple of times, and it made me think about our discussion about the anti-inflammatory foods, especially turmeric, that we discussed with Shavana Gupta in episode 133. She was all about getting enough of the certain spices. And I think she mentioned ginger too.
Yeah, I think both Jeanette and Shivani mentioned ginger as well.
Do you think ginger snaps counts?
Well, if you're avoiding sugar, that might be the problem.
That's right. That's right.
But you could try. I tried making sugar-free apple crisp the other day.
Yeah. How was it?
It was fine. I was a little heavy-handed with the spices, so that was a drawback. But, apples are so sweet that when I baked them, I didn't miss it. What I missed was the vanilla ice cream on top.
Oh, yeah.
Jeanette did remind me that you should add black pepper to your turmeric when you're eating it. It makes it easier for your body to access.
As soon as we got off from the recording, I made a giant pot of soup because it's gotten colder here recently, and I was more into the soup than the salad, but I'm adding all the things and thinking of her as I add the nuts, and not nuts, but the beans and tomato and all these vegetables. And I put some leafy greens into my soup as well. Just, it just really, I love how that all tastes, but it really reinforced how good that all is for you.
Yeah. And soup is a great way to get lots of vegetables into a meal.
Exactly.
Oh, I wanted to tell you, I looked up what triple negative breast cancer is because I know we asked her, and I'm not sure if it was clear. It was sort of, we took her off guard, I think, with that question.
Yeah.
What it means is that the cancer cells don't have estrogen or progesterone receptors, and also don't make any or too much of a certain protein. So in other words, the cancer cells test negative on all three of those tests.
Okay, that makes sense now.
That's why it's called triple negative breast cancer.
Wow.
Anything more than that, I don't know.
Sure.
But I was curious as to what that meant.
Yeah. Well, I looked it up just briefly, and it said it was a very aggressive kind of cancer.
Yeah. And so that also, I felt with Jeanette doing as well as she's doing, it did say the odds were good that kind of cancer returns.
Yeah, that was pretty amazing. And I think our talk today was a good reminder that we can do an awful lot of things in our lifestyle that will affect our health. I think we all know that, but this is a really good reminder.
Yeah. And as we were saying, it's not just cancer. We have cardio disease and lots of other things too.
Well, and the diabetes, eating the leafy greens first before you eat anything with your protein, fat, and sugar, or carbs, I should say, helps to protect, like we've heard that before too. It's not just cancer that, this kind of diet really helps. Yeah.
Anyway, you're right. It's a good reminder that there is a lot we can do for our health through lifestyle changes. Yeah. Right. I guess let us know what you're going to do. And if you're listening and want to share your thoughts or things that you do to promote health, please let us know.
Yeah. You can find Becoming Ellie at Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, Pinterest, YouTube, and LinkedIn.
And if you haven't already done so, consider joining our Becoming Ellie private Facebook group. We'd love to have you join us.
Well, it was great talking with you today, Jill. I'm looking forward to our next episode of the Fit Strong Women Over 50 podcast.
I am too. See you next time. Bye.
Bye-bye.